I've always been fascinated with greatness, real greatness, the type of greatness that can reshape culture and reveal what human beings are actually capable of. And if you study greatness long enough, there's a name that comes up time and time again, and that is Michael Jordan. And most of you know that Michael Jordan is considered one of the greatest, if not the greatest, basketball player ever. But he's also one of the most successful entrepreneurs and businessmen in the world. Let's just look at his business stats. So his net worth is over $3 billion dollars. And in 2023, he was the first athlete in history to crack the Forbes 400. And his stake in the Charlotte Hornets, he used to own part of that basketball team. Well, that sold for roughly $3 billion, dollars, giving him billionaire status twice over. And the Jordan brand pulls in over $6.6 billion dollars per year in revenue, and it keeps growing. And it's his logo and brand that's insane, because that logo, we all know the famous logo, the Jumpman logo. Well, that was created in the 80s. And while it's a cool logo, it's a very simple logo, but it has dominated culture for nearly 40 years. See, when I was a kid in the 90s, the Jordan shoes were everything. It was the coolest shoe you could have. And sadly, I never had any, but I always wanted them. But what's crazy is that hasn't changed. In fact, Jordans are more popular than ever. And the brand, see, back in the 90s, it was just on shoes and maybe some sweats and a t-shirt, and it was just basketball related. Since then, that Jordan brand is everywhere. There are college football teams that have the brand on their uniform. There are NBA teams, college basketball teams, NFL teams, or at least gloves and shoes that the NFL players wear. You have batting gloves. I remember Derek Jeter, who was a very good baseball player, was sponsored by Jordan. And Jordan was even in the boxing ring back in the 90s and early 2000s. You had Roy Jones Jr. wearing the Jordan logo. It's made its way onto soccer uniforms and even NASCAR. So this brand is iconic. It might be one of the most successful and most famous brands in the entire world. And the reason I'm bringing this up is that there's a clip going around of Michael Jordan talking about his brand. All right, so let's check it out.
Now it's like it's a prerequisite. You know, everybody has to have a logo. Everybody has to have a.
You know why, right?
Well, I'm pretty sure I'm part of the reason why everybody tries to get a logo, but
Brand, right?
A brand,
right? Brand Jordan.
But the thing is that brand is established based on what I did on the basketball court. You know, I didn't put the brand before I put the work. Mm-hmm. You know, right. I put the work first, and then the brand evolved based on the work.
Right.
A lot of times it's different.
So that's critical, and that's what we're going to talk about, that he didn't put the brand before the work.
You see it in every sport, not just basketball, football, baseball. Everybody's walking around with a logo and a hat, and I get it. But whatever I did here is never going to affect what I do on the basketball court.
But do you think that's harder now for guys? There's social media and all this stuff, so they got to cut through the clutter here a bit, right?
Yeah, that's true. I like to think that if I was playing today,
right,
I like to think that no matter what, my game is going to validate whatever I try to participate in away from the game. It's really tough for the kids today, and most of them do a great job of navigating what you are talking about. That's as long as you understand that this is always going to be what you're remembered for. Basketball and your love for basketball should always be pure. We would play this game, I've always said this, we would play this game for free. We did. And now we just so happen to get paid for it. Generationally, you know, I like to think that most of the time that people will remember Michael Jordan based on what he did on the basketball court and not always the commercials that he did.
See, why I love that interview and what he said there is that the most successful brand was not built on a marketing plan. It was built on hard work, and it was built on love of the game. And all he did was focus on being the best player he could. And then the brand spoke for itself. And I believe that's the only way it can work. But like he said towards the end of that is that players nowadays, because of social media, and I think this is a big problem with social media, is that they are putting their brand first. They are trying to come up with an identity, and they are concerned about going viral and how many likes they have, and they are less concerned about how they perform on the field. And it's not just athletes, it's everybody. We have a whole culture filled with social media influencers. And if you've ever looked into it, you realize that a lot of them are fake, right? The lifestyle and the brand and the image that they portray on social media is not their real image. Most of them are renting expensive cars, renting houses, renting clothes. Apparently, there's even a fake private jet that you can rent out by the hour to take some photos and shoot some video. And essentially, this is a big problem with our society, is that people want the attention first, and they chase attention instead of pursuing mastery, instead of working on their craft, instead of working on themselves to become better, to develop their skills. They'd rather just play the part. Everybody wants the rewards, but nobody wants to put in the reps. And one of the areas I see this play out is in the spiritual world, right? Everybody wants to be a quote unquote shaman. All you have to do is look at Instagram, and you got all these people playing the part, right? They wear the outfits, they memorize the vocabulary, they have the look, and it's all for show, right? Most of these people haven't put any work necessary to be a quote unquote shaman. They haven't done the inner work. They haven't gone through a proper initiation. There's no samas. There's no lineage. It's all fake. And you see this everywhere. I also saw that in the fitness industry. And what it makes me think of is that everybody wants to be a gangster until it's time to do gangster shit. Everybody wants the view from the top of the mountain, but nobody wants to make the hike. And this is what happens when branding and likes and social status matter more than actual work, than actual accolades. And another perfect example of someone benefiting just from the love of the game is the most successful podcast in the world is the Joe Rogan podcast, the Joe Rogan Experience. And if you know anything about that podcast, is he has stated time and time again that he did that podcast for one reason and one reason only, because he was curious and he loved talking to people. And that was it. He's never advertised his podcast. He's never tried to make any money off of it, yet he makes millions upon millions of dollars every year from that podcast. And it's essentially the same as it's always been. It's extremely low budget. He only has one other employee. There's very little structure. It's just a free-flowing conversation, and it's the biggest podcast in the world. And another example of someone becoming very successful in building a brand without trying to build a brand is David Goggins. As far as I know, he has no podcast. His Instagram channel is just him posting unpolished videos, and all he does is put in work. So the takeaway from this is that if you study success and you study greatness, it seems like some of the most popular brands and most successful people, they do it for the love of the game. They don't do it for money. They don't do it for likes. They don't try to go viral. They just put in work. But yet that work pays off. And because of that, they get all those things as a result of putting in the hard work. The money comes, the likes come, and their brands grow bigger every single year. So how do you apply this to your life? Focus on the work, right? Find something you love. Find something that you would do for free and then go all in, right? Consistency matters. Embody that lifestyle. Sure, we are in the age of social media. We're in the age of YouTube. I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't say not to put yourself out there. But what is your motive? And what is more important? See, I want to build a medicine ecosystem, not for the likes, not to become famous. and not for the money. I want to do it because I genuinely want to help people, because I am fascinated with human potential, and I want to learn how to be the best version of myself. I want to learn how to be able to unlock the secrets of the universe. I want to learn how to be able to tap in to that universal wisdom. I want to learn how to reconnect to the intelligence of nature, to the technology of nature. I want to embark on the hero's journey. I want to step into the unknown and then develop myself, bring back gifts, and then share those gifts with the community, because I believe that a rising tide lifts all boats. And most everything I'm doing right now, I would do for free. And in fact, I basically am, right? I make very little money off of a lot of the things I do right now, but that's fine because I'm doing it for the love of the game. And I encourage you to do the same. See you on the other side.